Hello out there on the internet. This is your boy Shelvon, and this is Gaming and Culture Television, or for sure the show of G&C Play TV, where we're going to talk about a few. And it's not going to be too long. We're going to talk about a couple of video game related articles, and to see how that goes. All right. So the first one we're going to talk about is California actually passed, and this is an article from a few days ago. I'll get the right one. All right. As California forces stores to admit that you don't own digital games, Good Old Games reminds gamers that you keep DM-free games. Your gaming legacy is always in your hands, which is kind of interesting because the biggest problem when you go digital that you don't have when you are when you buy physical is they have a tendency to lose license. It's a bunch of licensing stuff, like songs, different artwork, things like that. And so when the original company loses the license, then they can no longer sell the game. And since they can't sell a game, they're not that inclined to store the game because storing the game requires a lot of money. And depending on how old the game is, they tend to not want to do that. So if you get a game for 3 or 4 generations ago, good luck having any of these corporations save that game on any server someplace. So it's best that you buy everything that you can physical, but Sony and Microsoft, I don't know, well, Nintendo not so much, but Sony and Microsoft are gearing towards that kind of future where the system probably won't come with a, because I know the new PS5 Pro, you can get a disc, but the version that they're selling doesn't come with one because they want you to buy everything digital. And when you buy stuff digital, you're not actually purchasing the game, you're purchasing the license to use the software. So let's see what this says. All right. So folks that are taking on free marketing, taking a free marketing shot, and they're not wrong. When you purchase through links on our site, you are an affiliate. Okay, that is for this site. While pretty much every digital storefront says you're purchasing your games, the nasty little secret is that you're only ever buying a license to access a given title. Most stores reserve the right to revoke the license if they choose. Yeah, if you have a Kindle and for whatever reason Amazon can no longer sell that book or it's been banned or something like that, they will go into your Kindle and take it off. If you're lucky, they'll give you a refund. If not, you won't. Yeah, but I don't like the fact that they can just go into your stuff and just take it out. So I started buying physical copies of books again, even though it's convenient for digital because then you can just have one thing and have multiple books on it. But in reality, how many books are you gonna actually read in one given sitting? So you probably can bring 2 or 3 with you when you go someplace. So it's one of those things where it seems like it's convenient, but once you factor in all the downsides to it, it's not. All right. Okay, here we go. If you're about giving game, well, stores reserve the right to like if they choose, and as a new California law forces stores to actually admit the fact that DRM free outlet GOG is reminding PC gamers that you can live in a world where digital games are yours to keep. As The Verge reported yesterday, California Governor Newsom signed a new law that'll come into effect next year, which essentially bars digital stores from using words like buy when you're spending money on digital goods like games, movies, and music. It's a timely move given that global consumer rights campaign following uh, Ubisoft shut down on the crew. I'm going to check that out. If you could see companies that revoke access to purchase games, fined for false advertising. If there was a storefront that actually let you own your game, GOG joked on Twitter in the wake of the news. Oh, if there was, if only there was, that's what. Storefront, which is owned by Witcher and Cyberpunk parent company CD Projekt, is made its name by selling DRM-free versions of digital games. In contrast to the bigger digital PC stores like Steam. Players are quick to point out that GOG's own user agreement makes it clear that games you buy are merely licenses there too. When we said that we let you own your games, the store said in a follow-up tweet, we meant that no matter what happens, whether it's a licensing issue, storefront shutting down, or even a zombie apocalypse cutting off your internet, you'll still be able to play them thanks to our offline installers. You want to ensure that your gaming legacy is always in your hands, not ours. I mean, that sounds good, but what happens? All right, so sounds good, but what happens when you they can't sell a game and you restore your computer and you no longer have that copy of that. So it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, that sounds great, but that don't necessarily mean that they can actually fulfill that statement. Okay, yes, GOG is one of the few modern PC stores that let you download installers for your games, back them up, and reinstall those games anytime you want. GOG's licensing agreement does mean it could revoke your access to re-download a given title, but it can't reach into your computer and delete the installers that you already pulled down. Right, that's good. Other PC stores have a much worse track record with this kind of thing. Games purchased on Steam all require the launcher to run. While there's an offline mode, it is hardly a permanent solution to the aforementioned sort of zombie apocalypse situation. Some Epic games function without the launcher, but not all. And both stores allow publishers to include their own, sometimes quite obtrusive, separate DRM features. All right. So you don't actually own your games on GOG either. But it's a lot easier to hang on to them in perpetuity than those games you get on other storefronts. As we continue to live ever more on the whims of digital content providers for access to our games and media, I wish other stores were willing to take cues uh, from what GOG is able to provide. Yeah, I I readily agree with that. But the only surefire way to make sure that you don't have this problem is to just purchase it digitally, not digitally, physical if you can. PC games is kind of difficult because I'm not sure too many companies still sell stuff digital. I mean, physically. Like it's been a while since I bought a PC game, so I'm not sure of that. I know you can do that with consoles, and so far, Nintendo is still including hard like a thing in order to play physical games. Now, when the Switch 2 or the Super Switch or whatever they're going to call this thing comes out, I don't know because I'll like when you look at your phones and all that stuff, these companies are just taking features out and trying to convince you that it's for your own good or it's added benefit from them. Like from phones, removing the auxiliary cord, so you can't use plug-in headphones anymore, or you got to do some like on Apple, you got to do some weird workaround when you plug into the lightning cable. I'm not sure how that's going to work on the newer phones with the USB-C. It's probably the same thing because I think I saw a connector that you can plug an auxiliary cable into, but they're like taking away that option so that you don't even have a choice. And younger people are just going to be so used to that, just how things are. They're not going to know what they've missed, which kind of sucks. Like anybody who is older has had some issue where you bought a game on a sorry older system, and you find yourself having a very difficult time downloading the games that you bought for that system. So what's funny about all of this is people on the internet have workarounds, with ROMs and all that stuff, but these companies are going after all of these places that allow you to get like hard copies of games that you purchase and keep them in perpetuity on your system and just being able to play them. It's like Nintendo is like they went after somebody recently for an emulator, and I heard that what they're doing is even if you play an emulated ROM on your YouTube channel, they'll come and strike your channel for that. So it's just crazy. It's like they don't want to sell you the old games, but they don't want you to play them either. It's nuts. All right. So I think I'm gonna save the Ghost of Yotei stuff for last. This is not gonna be that long of a show, so uh, I know what I'm gonna talk about. This. All right. Okay. I remember having a conversation with some friends of mine about how much games cost. Right. So I was showing them. Put this back on me. I'm a big head. Yeah, I was showing them that how much like Spider-Man 2 cost, right? And it was like 250 mil or something like that. And I showed them the clips from the game because neither one of them were gamers. And I showed them clips from the game, and I'm like, does this look like this cost $250 million? And neither one, both of them looked at me like I was crazy. Like, how did this cost $250 million? Ubisoft just dropped like at the beginning of the year, they dropped this game, Skull and Bones, right? And they're saying that that thing costs between 650 to 850 million. uh, like I don't essentially Skull and Bones is the ship parts of Black Flag, that game. So I don't know how this costs this much, but hopefully on that part place they'll actually go into how that happened. All right, a rumor claims that Ubisoft allegedly spent 650 to 850 million dollars on this quadruple A. Can't believe we called it that. Skull and Bones game. According to a YouTuber, in uh, I can't pronounce that. And his sources within Ubisoft, these freaking ads. The project that ruined Ubisoft and put them in dire financial position. They are after Star Wars Outlaws soft sales in the second quarter is Skull and Bones, which he claims cost between 650 to 850 million dollars. All right. He shared that I was told that the project that ruined Ubisoft was not actually Outlaws or Shadows, it was actually Skull and Bones. My sources told me that they have seen multiple different versions of the game that were each completely different over the years, and they said that they were told that the budget that was spent on Bones was ranged between 650 and 850 over 10 years. Man, 65 million a year. Oh, and that Skull and Bones fell so badly for Ubisoft that it's actually the reason why they're dying the way that they are. He said it's not actually Outlaws or Shadows, if you can believe it. So they sunk a legendary amount of resources into a game, and it clearly did not work out for them at all. Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot famously described Skull and Bones as a quadruple A game and attempted to justify the price tag of $70 during the company's quarter three sales talk in fiscal year 2024 back in February, about a week before the game's release. He was asked by one investor, could you maybe unpack for us the decision to price it at $70? You've certainly emphasized that it's designed for a lot of live service game. Uh, wait, that it's designed for a lot of live services. What drove the decision to make the game pay to play when that could presumably limit the size of the player base and therefore the PRI in the game? Guillemot responded, you will see that Skull and Bones is a full-fledged game. You can see that in the market today. It is a very big game. We feel that people really see how vast and complete the game is. It is really a full AAA, quadruple A game and will deliver in the long run. Well, it didn't. From what I heard about and I saw reviews, it's like you couldn't even get off your ship. So you just going around on the ship. What's funny is they had a game that came out like in the 90s where you can get off the ship, you can fight. It's like all the stuff that you couldn't do in this 2024 game. Following the game's release, Tom Henderson at Insider Gamer reported the game currently has around 850,000 players total at the time of writing, which includes those who have opted to play the game with the 8-hour free trial provided by Ubisoft. In the same report, Henderson detailed that Ubisoft spent around 200 million on the game and doesn't expect it to make it back. The game was released to Steam on August 22nd, 2024, and only hit a peak concurrent player count of 2,615 players. Oof. Since the game has seen a massive fall off, the most recent 24-hour peak was 412, and that was a decline of 85%. It is estimated that the game sold between 23,000 to 634,000 copies. For comparison, that is around the estimate that Firewalk Studios Concord estimated Steam sales between 20,000 and 25,000. Oof, man. I think that's one of the biggest problems with this particular industry is that games cost way like I do not know why they need to feel the need to spend this much on these games. You don't it doesn't feel like that when you play them. It's like Ubisoft games are full of bloat. It's like when you climb one of them towers and then it opens up all the little icons all over the map, it's the same thing over and over again. Go fetch this, go get that, go shoot this person, or go do this. Come back, bring the thing back from this point A to point B, come back to point C, back to A, and then move on to the next area where you climb a tower, go to the top, look around, opens up all the stuff, and it's just rinse and repeat. It is not an interesting game, and that's another reason why Ubisoft is probably having the issues that they are at because a lot of their games are just same. As much crap as Shadows is getting, it's probably going to be just like probably going to be just a boring slog, just like the last couple of games have been. It's the same stuff. You're just kind of doing it again and again. So, but hopefully, once Ubisoft deals with their issues, maybe they'll learn from this. But I don't know. The big like another problem with a lot of these companies is that everyone who made those companies, have moved on from BioWare to like all the like pick a company and like Rocksteady, same thing. It's like the guys who founded the company are doing something else right now. So you got a bunch of people who got hired afterwards, and just like Pixar, and go on and on and on and again. The people who made that thing of that thing are no longer there. And what when you get a successful company, it is a lightning in a bottle type of thing. It is good leadership and a good crew of people who understand their assignment and put forth a good product because they mesh well together. There are a lot of companies who try to do pretty much everything, and that tends to not work out very well for most companies. Because again, it is good leadership, good crew, everything. You have to have everything for it to succeed, and not only do they have to have the talent, they also have to have the drive, and that is a hard combination to get a lot. So, all right. So we're gonna end this. It's like this is not gonna be too long. It's like maybe 25 minutes to 30 minutes because there's not really a lot of gaming news. It's a lot of the same stuff. Like people talking about the PS4 Pro and Silent Hill and various other games that are just rehashes of the same thing. It's like they had one thing that was interesting was the guys who made Dragon Quest, they decided to chime in on modern gaming because they're doing a remaster of the game that they created, and they changed a bunch of stuff. It's like some of the costumes that they to excuse me, to get away from the male gaze, they added clothes to them. So they changed the original person's idea. So you get a bunch of 20-year-olds and whatever. Because the person who's talking, he looked like in his 70s. So he's old school video game developer. So you get someone in their 20s who think that they can just change that, and that the customer base or the fan base of this particular project will be very happy about that. So he basically stated that he doesn't understand all of this silliness, and he basically called America a ridiculous place because our silly viewpoint on stuff. And what made it annoying is it's not even a small amount of people. What the problem is that you got a bunch of people who are in the right positions to cause all these problems, and they're changing stuff for their own sake and pretending that they're doing it for everybody else when they're not. So it's the localizers and it's the community manager types and there's all this other stuff. So they're putting modern Gen Z speak in games. They're putting clothes on all the female characters. Somehow they never seem to care about what like the half naked male characters, but that's just kind of how it goes. These people, are if anything, not even based when it comes to their ideas on stuff. So, but the thing is that that particular thing that I saw a while back, apparently it's been scrubbed from the internet because Square Enix didn't appreciate them giving their 2 cents on that. Although it's the truth. It's like you're changing this old property. I mean, if I created something and even though I don't have control of it, and this is why you should never sell your IP to any company unless you control that company. You changed it. I'm gonna feel a kind of a way about it. You know, I think most people would, and so it's just giving these guys a very skewed view of America. It's not most of us. It's just a handful of people who got problems. All right, so let's get into. There's two different articles on Ghost of Yotei. So I'm gonna read one and then I'm gonna check out the other one. I had some. It's like I don't have the issues that a lot of the fans of Ghost of Tsushima have. It's like Sucker Punch have made a bunch of games, and all the games that they made, I've liked them. So I'm willing to give, even though I'm kind of tired of the girl boss stuff, and I can see why people have their issues with having a female protagonist in this game, especially when people really like the first one and probably would have preferred a sequel to that. But I, I was looking at this YouTube channel that I forgot what it's called. Let's see if I can find it. And his wife is basically it's a guy and his wife, right? So his wife seems to have a very nice knowledge of Japan and its history. So let's see if I can find the name of it so I can give a shout out to them. So it's like she like for the shadows assassin shadow thing she ripped the trailer because it's like every 2 seconds of stuff that they show it was wrong. It was trees out of season, things in weird places, stuff that didn't exist at the time period that they're talking about. It's just so on and so on, like from his costume to everything. It's like she just basically went through, and she was talking about Ghost of Tsushima. It was pretty much the opposite. It's like Sucker Punch, basically. I can't find it. So it's like Sucker Punch. There we go. All right. Sucker Punch basically was very authentic in pretty much everything that they did. So that actually, by watching her talk about like the trailer and saying that there was some discrepancies, but it was probably more story based. So the errors weren't necessary like simple stuff like in Shadows. They basically had like a dude standing on a tower with no ladders around for him to have climbed up on the tower. There was like an open door that was over like nothing, and right next to it is a staircase. It was like little stuff like that. So, where if you can't get that stuff right, I can't imagine how you could possibly get anything else in this game correct. But from what it sounded like what she was saying, and she could be a crazy person, but she sounds authentic. And she was like, this was right and that was right. And the time period, they actually give you a little bit of history. I really should find that so I can give you a little bit of history of here we go. It's Dash Blue. Uh, just a little bit. I'll show a little bit.
でさ、首絞まるよ。でさ、首取れるよ。ポキッ。 You
Uh,
lose your monkey head. Yeah, but this armor set, oh my god, what a work of art. This is so beautiful. This is also Dolmata, of course, just like the other sets, right? It's Dolmata tied on the right side.
Yeah.
And then you got the 6 Ksazuri
Mhm.
hanging down. Jin's armor is nuts.
これはないわ。
This is so crazy. See, okay, this is end game armor. You get this at like the very end of the game. So I can understand they went all out, bro. It is nuts. Chains around the forearm? Chains to
all right, I'm not. But this is Dash Blue. All right, it's pretty interesting. So if you want someone who to talk about these different things, and this seems to have somewhat of a knowledge of the area, you should check them out. Dash Blue. So, all right. So let's get into this article. Rumor: Sony's executives not happy with the initial Ghost of Yotei response, and developers were blindsided by with new female character. A new rumor claims that Sony executives were seemingly not happy with the response to the announcement trailer for Ghost of Yotei, and number of developers were blindsided by the new female character. Again, Indie, I have to check this out. Shared this information from an alleged insider. Said apparently Ghost of Yotei blindsided many people who are working at Sony who were not made aware that this what Sucker Punch was making. He added that the people in the mid levels of Sony were actually confused when Yotei was announced because they were on the impression that Jin Sakai will be getting a sequel, which is pretty much what most people were thinking. Endymion. I'm sorry if I'm getting your name wrong, dude. I also shared, and they were not happy at all when it comes to the response to the game, either internally at Sony right now. The game received mixed reactions, and a number of top comments bemoan Sucker Punch abandoning Jin Sakai's story. Imagine hearing about Jin as a legendary folktale quest. Ghost was the best idea to stick with. This way, you can tell loads of different stories from different eras, showing pretty cool characters. So this is set in 1600, turn of the Sengoku Jidai period in Edo, 400 years after Jin Sakai wrote Defunct 104. 1603 is established is the establishment of the Tokugawa shogunate, and Yotei was a major mountain in Hokkaido, northmost island of Japan, which leads me to believe that we'll be able to explore Hokkaido. Exciting stuff, lots to explore. All right, so I don't know if I can get a better view of that. One person pillared the game, comparing it to Assassin's Creed Shadows. Sucker Punch saw AC Shadows and went, all right, Homasaki. Another offered a similar sentiment. Ubisoft were finally introducing Samurai Assassin's Creed. Sucker Punch here, okay. Hopefully, Jen is still going to be mentioned in the game, probably as a legend about how an 8-foot tall demon called Ghost beat the Mongols out of Japan. Anne Reen wrote, I never expected to make this IP into an anthology series of different time periods and places in Japan. I think they made the right choice. Another stated that Anu, the native people of Izo Hokkaido, called Mount Yotei with Makaren Ai, okay, or female mountain. And someone mentioned the mountain is believed to have the power to strengthen women's energy. What a way to choose a scene and protagonist. This is what we call artists actually doing their research. Outside the trailer, Sony and Sucker Punch were heavily criticized for featuring a female character in a formerly male lead franchise, with many pointing out to Sony's diversity and inclusion policies. All right. Kabutas, the creator of Sweet Baby Inc., detected, Steam creator listed. All right. But the female protagonist in the next Ghost game is not because of DEI reasons. Below we have Sony's latest corporate report released yesterday. Signs are there, but not surprised if we discover things about this game in the future. Okay. As if it aren't already involved with VA's beliefs and advocating of trans rights, now Sony is still pushing the agenda of DEI. This game is no different from HE Shadows and Suicide Squad than Concord. All right. Well, no. I'm of the mind. All right. Okay. Look, I am of the mind that Sucker Punch has been making pretty good stuff. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt until I start seeing a few trailers and some gameplay. Then we will see. The little bit that they did show, it could be interesting, it could not be interesting. I am trying my very best to not be black pilled on stuff, and as a lot of these people kind of are. So I was having a conversation with someone, and basically what I was saying is we're at the point where people are so tired of this stuff that even the hint of anything like this means that they're done. They're not even going to check it out. Don't care how good it is, you know. Excuse me. The perfect example of this is Furiosa. Apparently, Furiosa is not a girl boss movie. She struggles. She has the hero's journey, all of that stuff, and didn't do well. It flopped because the trailer came out, and whoever cut the trailer decided to cut it into a girl boss trailer. So that turned off a ridiculous amount of people. And I saw people who, when their favorite YouTuber who went to go see it, actually gave it a favorable review, start yelling and screaming at the YouTuber about how they've gone woke and gone over to the other side. That is how tired people are of this stuff. It's like, this is not the right time to put anything like out. If you wanted a surefire hit, you should have made Ghost of Tsushima 2, like, and finish the story of him, like what happens next, because that is basically what everybody wanted, and you're not gonna give it. So you got to come like really with it if you expect people to actually give you the time of day on this game. So there is another. There's another article about not this per se, but it is about that game. So let's see what have that, and that'll basically be it for today. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Sucker Punch sought to avoid repetition and find unique experience for Ghost of Yotei. We know you like Jinsekai, but what if Atsu is even better? That sentence is the problem in a nutshell. It's like, what's crazy about that particular sentence is when people say that stuff, they act like there's like this vacuum of that's not a thing now. But everyone who does this in their games, in movies, and all, in books and comics and whatever, says the exact same thing. Is that I know you like this guy, but this chick is gonna be way better. It's like, if that is how you're gonna start this particular thing, you are like, those people who are done with this crap, that is not gonna get them like to listen to you. So, all right, but let's continue with the article. This is on Gamerangs. Sucker Punch creative director Jason Connell shared an interesting insight into what the studio was thinking about and improving what they did in Ghost of Tsushima and onto Ghost of Yotei. One challenge that comes with making an open world game is the repetitive nature of doing the same thing over and over again. We wanted to balance against that and find unique experiences. We certainly wonder if those who did play Ghost of Tsushima felt that it was particularly repetitive. I didn't. Most people didn't. So I'm not sure what this dude is talking about. He isn't talking about the Ghost of Tsushima in particular, but making observation about the open world game genre in general. Well, most of it is filled up with like Ubisoft games, and yeah, those are very repetitive because there's no story-based reason to do this stuff. It's like when you go to the different areas in Tsushima, yeah, you kind of doing similar things, but each area that you went into, they had a kind of like you're not a boss, but how to say this. You had kind of a guide, I guess, that was the avatar for that particular area. So you had missions that were based off of that particular person. So while the missions were similar, it was still different missions. Yeah, I don't know if I'm saying that right. So I'm not sure why they decided to do this. So I don't know. On that end, we can see how opinions may vary on games being repetitive or on a more abstract level. Repetition is a core tenet of game design. Yeah. Basically, Mario, you do the same thing in every Mario game that has ever been played. You switch from 2D to 3D, same thing. You go here, you get all the way to the end of this level, you go and you start a new level. And that's pretty much most games. If a player can see that certain challenges can get more and more difficult, but can be beaten with more and more familiarity, that genders a sense of achievement. So when you do meet that challenge, on the flip side, it is also true that variety can help make a game before or be more interesting for the player. That is, unless you have loaded them with too many things to think about, that it becomes overwhelming. Software fans who enjoy the harsh but simple game loops of Bloodborne may not be as willing to meet the challenge of learning the complex piloting and upgrade systems of Armored Core 6. And repetition and variety can both appear in the same game. What Cannell may be referring to here is developing emergent gameplay for Ghost of Yotei. These ideas that sound fun and great on paper, but are not easy to pull off when you're deep in the roots of game development. We know you know a lot of the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild players who are not eager to engage in the building mechanics of the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I am one of those. The players who like them seem to really like them, so their system seems divisive, but it's also the natural next step to a sandbox that Nintendo conceived of. Yeah, I guess. Maybe that the divisiveness in this idea alone is why many critics and peers chose to pass Tears of the Kingdom over the Game of the Year awards for the harsh table top games rule set of Baldur's Gate 3. So that's how important it is to nail these games' design decisions when developers choose to commit to them. But that's just speculation on our part. Maybe Atsu will be up to something else. Maybe Sucker Punch genuinely has something cooking that will make Atsu even more beloved than Gensaki. If you think about how fans spoke out about wanting to return to playing at Gen, then you can see how ambitious Sucker Punch is in wanting to defeat those sentiments with even better gameplay. All right. The problem is you have to get them to actually play it, and that's the problem. How can I put this? All right. So if you make a really good steak dinner and then people come back to your spot expecting to get a steak dinner because they like your steak dinner, but you serve them chicken instead, it could be the greatest chicken in the world. Most people who came there to get steak are not going to try it. So it's like people really, really, really like playing that game. They really like that character because the amount of effort that you put into that character. So when they wanted a sequel using that character. You may like Atsu, but that don't necessarily mean that your fan base will. It's like The Last Airbender, right? The amount of people who are fans of the first series with Aang and Sokka and the whole bit did not like the second one with Korra. People do not like her character because they like Aang. So when they made a sequel to that, they wanted and they had and for me, they had little parts in the chorus thing where they showed Aang as an adult. That's what everybody wanted to see. They didn't want to see her. So because you didn't give them what they wanted, they didn't even a lot of people didn't even give Korra a chance. Now, I don't really like her, the story, and she's too whiny. But that's a whole different thing why I didn't like it. But it's a similar thing. Is people really wanted a sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, and you didn't do that. It's like it's like, okay, I'm looking at the trailer. Like I said, thanks to the Dash Blue, I don't have as much gripes with it. I'm more willing to give it a chance, but I don't know who the villain is. It's like you had Mongols in the first one. That was a hard challenge to defeat them. You're basically samurai Batman fighting, off the Joker and whatnot. So I don't know who. So on the teaser, it doesn't really say who the bad guys in the second game are. So that could be the tail of the tape, as they say. All right. But that's it for today. 40 minutes. Yeah, I thought this was going to actually end quicker. It wouldn't take as long, but it was pretty cool. So I'm gonna be back around this time, like 9 o'clock next week. Hopefully they'll have a bit more interesting stuff to talk about. So please like, share, and subscribe. And all you folks out there on Rumble, please give us a follow. So all right, well, I guess I'm out.